course, man. Of course.
There are few things in life that can truly bring us together. Few things that can lift us to our feet and bring us to our knees. Few things that can be analyzed, internalized, socialized, even spiritualized. It gives us identity. It gives us purpose. It makes us believe. There's nothing better. To the sickos, the diehards, the supporters, the hooligans, to the rowdiest, the most obsessed, the fans. For us and all those like us, it will always be sports over everything.
Podcast coming to you live from Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Anderson, being produced today by Sarah. We are joined off the bat by founder and host of the Over-Slot Podcast, Joe Doyle. You can also check out overslotbaseball.com for all of the articles that Joe and his team are putting out. Joe, you saw in the intro, sports over everything. So even before we talk about the new branding change and all that stuff, let's talk about Roch Cholowsky and what matters, sports. Welcome in, second time on the show. Glad to see you.
Hey, good to be back, Sean. Also, sick new intro, sick new brand. You guys have got something going here. This is nice.
This is why we pay people big bucks. People above me,
there you go.
They pay me to think about the White Sox and Mike Shirley and what he's going to do in 2026. A lot of people are like, oh, aren't you excited about getting the number one overall pick in 2026? And I'm like, I'm mostly relieved. Like, they had the highest chance ever to get the number one overall pick. You had the worst season ever in 2023 or 4. You know, you really kind of earned this one if you're a White Sox fan. We're going to talk about Roch Cholowsky, obviously the consensus number one prospect overall right now. But first, let's talk about you, because you just made the transition somewhat recently, I think before we had you last on, to your own venture, Over-Slot Baseball. And you've done a great job talking to a ton of teams, specifically people within their scouting directors about what these teams are going to do and how they view the Major League Baseball draft. People can go check out overslotbaseball.com. What have you gained and what knowledge do you have over the White Sox and how Mike Shirley tries to go after his drafts?
Yeah, I would say Mike and the White Sox are pretty tight-lipped. They don't go out of their way to well, frankly, they haven't been on. Mike hasn't been on the Over-Slot podcast yet. We've been talking about it. I think he's going to come on at some point soon, but they're pretty, controlled and behind closed doors in terms of the way that they like to handle things. Now, the type of player that they like has become pretty clear over the years, whether that be the college pitcher with the big stuff and the big production, or the high school player that has, projection and a big left-handed swing and, power projection, things like that. They also like the local boys. So, I think in time you begin to get a feel for what teams like, but I can't stress this enough. Every draft is different than the last, and every player is different than the last. Roch Cholowsky really is nothing like most of the other prospects the White Sox have targeted and landed in drafts in the last 3, 4, 5 years. So certainly a great year to hold the number one pick, and it will be tough for anyone to dethrone Roch off the top of the mountain.
I don't want to get too deep into him because I feel like we're going to talk about him for a bit. The one question I do have, just going back in past history, Sox took Hagen Smith 5th overall, and the big fish now in Major League Baseball is Connor Griffin, who was taken 5 picks after. And I know you had a piece over at Over-Slot Baseball talking about how Colt Emerson was almost a White Sox in the 2023 draft. Funny connections now that, Roch Cholowsky was also a part of those prep shortstops from 2023, the group that Emerson's a part of. But was there any steam of the White Sox? I know you said they're tight-lipped. Was there any steam that the Sox were interested in Griffin? Because there are a lot of people that do get miffed that, hey, the number one prospect in baseball was just 5 slots later, and he was a prep player that, had a ton of tools like you have picked in the past.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that. I hadn't heard that the White Sox were particularly on Connor Griffin. It's weird. He's one of those players that he's 6'4", 210, 215 pounds, runs like a gazelle. Obviously, he has raw power, and he didn't really have any strikeout concerns. It is strange that I couldn't seem to find more teams inside of the top 10 or 12 that were attached to Connor Griffin. There was a few, but there were concerns as to whether or not his swing was too rigid, too stiff, whether or not he was going to ever get to the offensive profile that he was capable of getting to. I tip my cap to the Pittsburgh Pirates. I mean, they turned Connor Griffin into a superstar immediately. I mean, absolutely immediately. This is not a project. This is not a player that took any time. But to answer your question, no, I hadn't heard much steam between the White Sox and Connor Griffin in that 24 draft.
Okay. Well, I will take a big sigh of relief. If anyone brings it up, I'll be happily able to shut it down because I'm not worried about Hagen Smith. It hasn't been smooth sailing, but also he started to show a little bit of life at the end of the year last year. So I'm not too worried about the direction. Would have been nice, but hey, this is what 2026 is all about. Before we get into Cholowsky, can I get attached to Cholowsky? Mainly because I know that I think the Rays have more bonus pool money than the White Sox technically. I think you addressed James Fox's concern specifically that the White Sox being 1-1, the kind of luster of being the number 1 overall pick and then also still being able to give Cholowsky a ton of money should allow them that if they want to draft Roch, they should be able to secure him pretty easily, right?
Yeah, I really think the auction narrative of the MLB draft is a little bit overblown, especially as it pertains to the number 1 pick. Like, you got to put yourself in Roch Cholowsky's shoes. Let's say that the bonus pool number for the White Sox with the number 1 pick is $12 million, $11.5 million. Well, if you offer Roch Cholowsky $11 million and you save a little bit of money, his option, and let's say he had $13 million from the Rays at the number 2 pick as an option. His options are to accept $11 million from the Chicago White Sox or go back to school. And he'd be going back to school, entering a season where he'd be a year older. There's a lockout that could be, entering Major League Baseball. We don't know how owners are going to want to spend. Roch could get hurt. Roch could get bigger. He could lose some of his athleticism. We don't really know what could happen here. So long as the White Sox offer Roch a fair value deal, they're going to get Roch Cholowsky. And it doesn't really matter if, the Tampa Bay Rays have $1 billion with the number 2 pick. They hold no cards.
Thank God. All right. So maybe Chris Getz and Mike Shirley want to go in a different direction, but let's talk about Roch because right now the word that you can use with him is consensus. Let's get into maybe a scouting report so people can learn a little bit more about him. I think you brought up Alex Rodriguez, but I wasn't sure if that was about George Lombard Jr. or Roch. Is A-Rod an absurd comparison, or is there something there with the somewhat bigger frame, hard power hitting, really good contact as well hitting, and then solid fielder at shortstop? Is A-Rod a fair apt comparison?
I didn't make that.
Okay.
I did say that if George Lombard, if all of the pieces come together out of nowhere, that's more of an Alex Rodriguez type of ceiling, and that's what I've heard from other scouts. But no, the name that I've used with Roch is people want to throw the Dansby Swanson thing out there, the this and that. I think the ceiling is more of like a Troy Tulowitzki, where it's a bigger player, it's a power first player that does have a hit tool. It's a guy that at 6'2", 208, 210 pounds is still going to play the shortstop position in a fluid, athletic way. He's going to be a plus defender. He's going to be an asset. He's going to be extra value on the dirt. But the thing with Tulowitzki coming out of Long Beach, there was, or maybe it was Cal State Fullerton, there was no warts, right? He could hit for power. He could pick it. He had a huge arm. And the worries with Tulo was, is he too big? Is he too big to play the shortstop position? I think that's kind of the narrative with Cholowsky is you're looking at a guy that doesn't have any real concerns in his profile. Now, I could get deep into the weeds mechanically and some different things here and there that he could work on and polish up and get right. But in general, you look at this profile, you look at the chase rates, you look at the whiff rates, you look at the defensive metrics, you look at the exit velos. He's a complete player as far as what we saw in 2025. Could he regress? Sure, of course. But what we have now, the information that we have now, he's a pretty exceptional prospect, and it's hard to poke holes.
Yeah, and Catholic Baseball 8, I think it's Matt from Oakland, is asking, how about plate discipline? What it seems like is, if he is making a swing within the zone, he's able to make contact. And that's the real exciting thing, is that the contact skills are there. And then while he's making contact, he's also hitting the hell out of the baseball, right? Or am I far off?
Yeah, no. I mean, listen, I think you can nitpick with prospects at the number one pick, right? At the end of the day, like, this is plus bat to ball skills, it's plus contact quality. His whiff rate in 2025 was something like 22.5%, which is super healthy. That's not a whiff rate where you look at it and go, this is really worrisome. I mean, some of the best hitters in the sport are driving whiff rates over 30% and still impacting the baseball at a high clip, still impacting xWOBA. They're still doing big numbers. Even if Roch comes into Major League Baseball and that bloats up to 25, 26% and his contact quality doesn't take a step back, you're still talking about a guy that could hit 285 with 25 to 30 home runs. And, I guess if you wanted to really kind of poke and prod at it, it's maybe average to solid average power, but Corey Seager might go into the Hall of Fame, and I don't know if he ever clocked average run times. So it's not the be all end all at the shortstop position if you fill up every other checkbox.
Yeah, right. And that's the one thing too, that with like Colson Montgomery, we saw with the bigger frame was, maybe the speed isn't there, but he's able to cover so much ground just with 3 steps that he's able to play shortstop, at least now, while he's athletic and young, comfortably at shortstop. With Roch, how much of a consensus is consensus? We're obviously, far away from July. That can change things. But when you look at past top prospects, when have you seen as much of a consensus on a player, or which player in the past do you think relates to this much of a consensus?
Yeah, I mean, as far as a consensus goes in like October, November, we're talking 9-10 months out from the draft. I don't know if there are many other players that are as consensus 1-1 as Roch. I think a better way of looking at this is, what are the odds of him going pole to pole? Because I think that's the most fascinating thing to look at. If you go back the last 16, 17 years, it's Bryce Harper, who was the number one unanimous prospect, ends up going number one. And then I think in 2019, a lot of people would say Adley Rutschman went pole to pole. There were some Bobby Witt Jr. believers way before that draft, and he's turned out to be an all-pro, of course. But yeah, I mean, the player that comes into the year as the 1-1 prohibitive, no doubt slam dunk favorite to go first overall generally doesn't go first overall. But then again, you just don't see this polished of a college hitter at a premium position most years. So because of that, I think Roch has as good a chance as anybody since Bryce Harper to go pole to pole.
And even too, you bring up 2023, that draft, people think, oh, Skeens would have been a consensus 1-1, but I know that there were some people that would have talked themselves into Cruz 1-1 just because you didn't have that injury concern and that he'd play 162 rather than Skeens starting 32. Again, hey, hindsight's 2020.
There was questions. There was questions the morning of the draft whether or not it was going to be Skeens or Cruz. And preseason, people had Paul Skeens in the 10 to 15 range. They didn't know what LSU had. I mean, the fall reports were beaming, but he was still coming from Air Force. The velo hadn't blown up yet. So yeah, that's a perfect example. Talking about a guy that was not even a top 10 prospect in the draft in the fall, boom, ends up going first overall. And that could happen this year too.
I think you'll enjoy this story, so I'll share this. Gene Watson of the White Sox, formerly of the Royals, was on the show, and I asked him, was there any chance that Bobby Witt fell to the Sox, and instead of taking Andrew Vaughn at 3 in 2019, would they have gotten Bobby Witt? And he told me that his first job in Major League Baseball was with the Astros, and he, I think, caddied for Bobby Witt's dad, and then I think his daughter ended up babysitting for the Wits in general. So there's like a 30-year relationship that predates Bobby even being born, that led to Bobby, I think, going to overall the Royals. That
Crazy.
seemed, kind of destiny.
Mhm.
So, I think the Royals were real happy that maybe Adley was a consensus 1-1. Is there a high school prospect that, maybe in 5 years, like Bobby Witt, that we'd look back and be like, oh, well, Roch was just as polished as Adley coming out, but you're still taking a player that's 4 years younger where, like maybe Connor Griffin, you're unsure of what the ceiling could be. Is there a high school prospect right now that maybe is head and shoulders above the rest?
Well, there's two different types. There's Grady Emerson, who, listen, Roch is the odds-on favorite to go 1-1, but I don't think, if you were to look back, if you look forward 3 years from now, Grady Emerson might be just as good a prospect as Roch Cholowsky. He's a better runner. He's just as good of a defender, at least from this lens. He's left-handed, and he is putting up the same types of metrics in the high school side of things that Roch has done, over the last 3 years. So Grady Emerson is polished, but the guy that you brought up at the very beginning of this podcast, Jacob Lombard, some of the most unbelievable tools you will see from a high school. I'm talking like Elijah Green level tools. We're talking 40 home run power. We're talking big arm strength. We're talking 40 stolen base upside. I mean, Bobby Witt level production. The issue is, much like Ethan Holiday in the 2025 draft, there's a lot of swing and miss, and there's a lot of chase, and the production wasn't there for Team USA this year. That all being said, that's the guy that you don't draft, and you look at it 5 years from now, and it's like, how did this guy that is hitting 290 with 35 home runs and, going 30-30 and annual All-Star, bloodlines, his brother is a top prospect for the Yankees, how did he not go in the top 2 or 3? That's the guy I would watch out for. But still, like, the draft, the MLB draft is an exercise in risk and reward, right? Ceiling and floor. And when you look at Roch Cholowsky, not only is the ceiling substantial, sensational, the floor is also so high.
Yeah. Am I off base to say, once he's drafted and, post day 3 of the MLB draft, when Pipeline, yourself and everyone updates their top 100 prospects, could he be a top 20 prospect? Because I know he was in the same high school class as Colt Emerson, who's currently a top 20 prospect. You brought up Lombard from New York, also a prep player from that year. I've said I could see him just being like the 15th best prospect in baseball right away.
Higher. I genuinely think, I think for me, I've talked about this on my podcast. If we were to re-rack everything right now, I think Roch would be a top 12 prospect in the sport. I live in Seattle. I cover Colt Emerson. I've covered Colt Emerson and known the kid and known his family since he was a sophomore in high school, right? Roch Cholowsky has better tools than Colt Emerson. He has more raw power than Colt Emerson. He has better size and defensive instincts than Colt Emerson. They're the same runner. The only reason we're talking about Colt Emerson in such high regard is because he's done it at AA and he's kind of flirted with it at AAA. Roch Cholowsky has done it in college. So I would look at it like this. Colt Emerson has proven it. Roch Cholowsky is just as good a physical athlete and player. And so for me, I think Roch would be one of the top 3, 4, 5 shortstops in the sport and a slam dunk top 10 to 15 prospect for me.
Yeah. And the one thing too, people are worried that, you're drafting too many shortstops. You currently have Montgomery. There's Bonham. You just took Carlson. The thing that I think would happen, Roch could probably make his major league debut than Carlson, who was drafted a year before him. Probably even more, maybe even you could talk about him versus Bonham as well.
Roch might beat both of those guys by a year and a half, like comfortably. And, those are also two guys. So I look at it like this. It's interesting. I've been doing this long enough now where I've seen all of those guys in high school and I've watched them play. And, Bonham is a big, big dude. Like, I would be surprised if he doesn't end up at third base. Colson's 5'10". Colson's 6'5", and he's dealt with back problems in the past. Are we sure that that's going to be a shortstop at 26, 27 years old? And then Billy Carlson is he's a baby deer. You got to put 20 pounds on that kid. The offensive game has to come around. Like, that could take 4 years. We really don't know when that's going to come to fruition. So when you're talking about a guy who you could draft 1-1, who could be in the lineup on June 1st, 2027 for the Chicago White Sox, standing next to Colson Montgomery, who's playing third base or what have you. I just think it's never a problem to have too many elite up the middle athletes.
Yeah, right. And I talk about Mookie Betts all the time. I mean, he started as a second baseman, was moved to right field, and then at like 34, they asked him to play shortstop, and he
Yeah.
did it comfortably.
Mhm.
That's what the best athletes in Major League Baseball do. Okay, real two quick thoughts. Any thoughts on Jaden Tomey, Jim Tomey's kid? Because they just took Jaden Fauske, his teammate at Naz Academy, and Jim is a special advisor to the White Sox who's been there at spring training. Does that seem like a match made in heaven that Jaden Tomey might be a White Sox?
So Tomey, it's hard for me to say no because you just keep drafting kids out of the Midwest. Like every single draft, you draft a high school hitter out of the Midwest, and this one has bloodlines and history with the organization. I think with Tomey, it's interesting. How much is he going to want? Because we're talking about, I've compared him to Brandon Lowe, or Brandon Lau. He's a second base prospect with advanced offensive tools, but he's 6 feet tall. He's 185 pounds. Like, I don't know where it's going to go if it's not at second base. It's kind of a limited profile. And because of that, you ask yourself, where's he going to go in the draft? How much money is he going to want? He's committed to Tennessee, which is not going to be this like cheap rollover hometown discount type of a deal. I think if there was a team that makes more sense than any, it would be the White Sox based on their track record the last 3 years. And it would be a cool fit because he's a really good kid. I've gotten to know him. I interviewed him down at Area Code Games. Super, super efficient, advanced understanding of how to impact the baseball and get to the pull side despite being his size. Easy kid to root for. And if he ended up with the White Sox, it'd be a match made in heaven.
And then the other one that might be a match made in heaven is Joseph Contreras, former son of Jose Contreras of the 05 Sox. Just general thoughts on him, because that's a kid that I get asked about a lot.
Yeah, so Joseph Contreras has huge stuff, and it's a great body, and it's a big breaking ball. I personally, and this is just me, everyone has a different write-up. I personally have him as an 8th inning reliever or a potential closer. I think he's going to throw 100. I think he's going to throw an 88-mile-an-hour curveball someday. It's huge stuff. It's capacity to spin. The strikes are a little buckshot, and he's not a great mover in terms of getting down the mound, getting extension. So I think some of that velocity will play down a little bit, but he's a guy that I think could make a big jump in the spring if he proves that he can throw strikes over 4 or 5 innings. Again, if there was a team that was going to pull the trigger on someone like Contreras, I don't think it would be the White Sox. They've generally not gone for this is probably a reliever type of a player. Maybe it fits better with the Angels or someone of that ilk. But that all being said, like Contreras is going to get a lot of money. He's going to move pretty quick because he has huge stuff. And I do hope that the White Sox draft him because, frankly, I personally find that when a team that had its dad drafts its son, they always have success, right? Like they never fizzle out. So, yeah, good kid.
Yeah, it'd be fun to see. And they had Alec Thomas's dad working in the organization. They didn't decide to draft him, so that's been a huge confusing thing for White Sox fans. But yeah, no, we'll have to wait and see. Joe, fantastic job over at overslotbaseball.com. Make sure you listen to the podcast. Make sure you support Joe over at overslotbaseball.com. If you are interested in the Major League Draft, that is the #1 news source to go check out. So Joe, thank you so much. Go follow Joe at Joe Doyle MILB over on Twitter, and then overslotbaseball.com. Joe, thank you so much for the wealth of information.
Thank you for the kind words, Sean. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. We are going to take a break here on the CHGO White Sox podcast. We'll be back in 2 minutes. We'll talk a little bit about Noah Schultz, and we'll see if you have any thoughts on Roch Cholowsky in the comments. We will be back here on the CHGO White Sox podcast. We want to let you know about our friends over at Bet365. With the playoffs here, there is no better app to bet with than our friends over at Bet365. You could check out their early payout offer. You're a winner if your team goes up by 17 points with an instant payout on straight bets and parlay selections marked as winners. And also on Sunday Night Football, if you place a $10 first down touchdown score, you get a split of $365,000 in bonus bets if your player scores the final touchdown of the game. So check out our friends over at Bet365. Breaking news, new customers now get $200 in bonus bets when you bet $5, win or lose. Sign up using our code CHGO365. Deposit $10, place your first bet of $5, and whether that bet wins or loses, you get $200 in bonus bets. If your bet wins or loses, again, bonus bets can be used on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more, because whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 plus. If you has a gambling problem, Crisis counseling and referral services can be accessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER in-app only. And for all the right reasons, you want to call our friends over at 866 Four Seasons. Four Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric has been serving Chicagoland for over 50 years. Winter is here, and you need to know if your home heating is up for the challenge. If you have a plumbing emergency, you call our friends over at Four Seasons. If you have an electrical emergency, you call our friends over at Four Seasons. If you need a new hot water tank installed today, call our friends over at Four Seasons. Now is your time to schedule your Four Seasons furnace tune-up. And if you're thinking about a whole home generator, they have you covered. At Four Seasons, they guarantee same-day installation for all your heating, cooling, plumbing, electrical, and generator needs with no extra charges for nights, weekends, or holidays. Four Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric has been serving Chicagoland for over 50 years. We are sponsored by our friends over at Four Seasons, your trusted local experts for heating, air conditioning, plumbing, electric, and generators. Visit fourseasonsheatingcooling.com for all their special offers and money-saving coupons. That's fourseasonsheatingcooling.com. Isn't it nice to talk to smart people? Thank you to Joe Doyle of Over-Slot Baseball and the Over-Slot Podcast for joining us. Again, I said wealth of information, insane amount of information from Joe. Every single organization gets a very detailed report. He does that for every 30 teams, and then obviously he knows about all 500 prospects that get drafted. Truly amazing stuff from Joe. Obviously, you could check out MLB Pipeline. You could check out Fangraphs. I do think that Joe, if you are looking for like true in-depth, in-the-dirt stuff, Joe's service is unbeatable. So go check out Joe Doyle at Over-Slot Baseball if you are a sicko and a diehard, because sports are over everything. As you saw in that open before we talked to Joe, the new slogan here at ALLCITY is sports over everything. We're White Sox over everything. We are doing our best to be a distraction when we can, because when people are looking to escape, sports is typically that, and we hope that we can provide that escape for you. Shout out to the Fat Hipster for saying we will rock you. There is Anthony Manzano asking, is there a pitching prospect in the industry that you're willing to choose over Roch? I think Joe illuminated it well enough that when he brought up players behind Roch, they were Grady Emerson, it was Lombard, and I'm not sure if it's George or I forget the first name. I think it's a different first name. It's not George Lombard Jr. He's the one that's currently in the Yankees, but his brother Lombard. You're talking about young hitters. It's really rare for pitchers to go 1-1, and Skeens, Strasburg, they mainly make it undeniable when they look like pros on the mound. And you saw from day one, I mean, Skeens could have pitched in Major League Baseball out of the box. Felt the same way with Strasburg as well. So I would really find it hard to see a pitching prospect go over any of these players. Even in the top 5, I think it's all going to be hitters for the large majority. So I don't think that there's going to be a pitching prospect that we have to wait out for. And then shout out to Matt for saying he's now Elk Grove Matt instead of Oak Lawn Matt. So shout out to Matt for now moving up to the north side. I didn't love the pizza moving up here on the north side. I miss my Milanos. I miss my Palermos. I still have to find a Chicago pizza spot up here on the north side. I think it's completely different. South side clears the north side in pizza, and it's not even close. Chicago Hitman says, so when is he moving Monty to third, and when is he moving to third, and where is Monty playing if Carlson can hit? So I think Joe illuminated that well enough that Roch is advanced enough to likely beat out Bonnemer and Carlson to the bigs. So if Roch was their pick at 1-1, it would likely mean the end of Colson at shortstop, and then they would either have to move him to third base or maybe first base. I also think that Colson could possibly play left field. But it could also, I mean, is it the worst thing if Colson Montgomery is like really good at shortstop and he's hitting like 30 homers, and then you put Cholowsky at second base? Like, Colson is in a way also undeniable, because what he did is at the major league level in 71 games. So Colson's 2026 is going to depend positions and going to depend the future of both these players. But that's a good problem to have. If you're unsure of where these players are going to play, at least you know that you have two guys that are going to play, rather than, is it going to be Mydroth? Is it going to be Antonacci? Right? Like, let's just have undeniable talent. And I think that's what Cholowsky and even Colson brought to you. Clywood did want to correct Colson Montgomery than saying Colson Montgomery 6'3". There's a decent amount of figures out there. Baseball Reference has him at 6'3". I believe the White Sox actually, or MLB.com lists him at 6'4". Fangraphs has him at 6'3". Colson's very tall. I think Colson is likely closer to 6'4" or even 6'5". They typically lie about height and usually make guys taller than they are, but I wouldn't believe that Colson's 6'3". I feel like that might just be a somewhat outdated number. Colton saying Colson at third base, Billy at shortstop, Roch at second base, and Mooney at first base for future infield could be insane. Don't go, not so fast, my friend. Billy Carlson might not make it up to the major leagues by the time Munetaka Murakami is not a White Sox. Murakami's contract's only 2 years long, right? So, 2026, 2027, 2028 could come. Carlson could still not be ready. The one thing too, think back to Garrett Crochet, look at Noah Schultz now. I don't know how easy it is for these kids like sub 23 to add muscle. I think we do forget that typically when I was growing up back in the day, the prime of an athlete was like 26 to 30. So when you see Garrett Crochet put on that much weight around 25, 26, it starts to make sense. So with Carlson, it might not be a thing that hits where he plays great defense, but like the hitting wise, like build wise, he might not be a major leaguer for several years. He's a very small 18-year-old, and it might take him a bit to build up a little bit. But yeah, appreciate everyone hanging out with us. If you have not hit the thumbs up button, make sure you hit the thumbs up button and make sure you're subscribing to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. Hey, Chicago Hitman saying he's in Oak Lawn, right by Palermo's. So my favorite is a pepperoni and onion. We have to take a break here on the CHGO White Sox podcast. I'm going to talk about Noah Schultz. There was an executive poll that had lists of future closers, and the number 2 name was Noah Schultz. I'm a little mad about it. And I also, for no real reason, I'm going to waste your time, and I'm going to talk about Kyle Tucker here on the CHGO White Sox podcast. Folks, do you know that moment, the moment where you left your favorite sunglasses at the beach, on the roof of your car, or at a gas station 3 states away? Well, I've been there too. I once was at a park, just left them down because they had a mound. You don't see mounds that often these days. Found a dirty old ball, threw it off the mound, walked away all happy, but I left my sunglasses. And I didn't fret because I have Shady Rays. They have absolutely changed the game, not only with their seriously good-looking, polarized, durable, and not stupidly expensive shades, but the wild part is, if you lose or break them, even on day one, Shady Rays will send you a brand new pair with no guilt trip, just replacements. So now you can wear your sunglasses without fear at hikes, on concerts, on the boat, wherever, because Shady Rays is the eyewear that has your back. We've teamed up with our friends over at Shady Rays to bring you an exclusive offer. Head to shadyrays.com and use code CHGO for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. We also want to let you know about our friends over at Xfinity. This show is being brought to you by our friends over at Xfinity. If my Wi-Fi wasn't working, I wouldn't have a show. What if you could have reliable and intelligent Wi-Fi? And what if you could keep it at the same price for 5 years? That's the Xfinity 5-year price guarantee. Imagine Wi-Fi that makes everything in your home work together, that finds and fixes problems before you even notice them, like super intelligent Wi-Fi with a 6th sense, and that lets you stream the game even when the whole family is online. All of your devices working in perfect harmony for 5 whole years. And here's the best part. There's no annual contract, no hidden fees, and Xfinity's best equipment is included. So take it from me, a lot can change in 5 years. Sometimes you're seeing the Astros in the playoffs, and then you're rebuilding. But your Wi-Fi, it should stay reliable, and the price should stay put. Lock in your price and unlock the possibilities with Xfinity. Learn more at Xfinity.com. Xfinity, imagine that. Select plans only. Restrictions apply. Select plans only. Restrictions apply. Why is my camera off? Come on, Sean. Welcome in back to the CHGO White Sox podcast. Appreciate, again, everyone hanging out with us. We've got 30 people watching. Hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you're subscribing to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. Let's talk about Noah Schultz, because I'm honestly a little bugged. MLB Pipeline put out an executive poll that asked, who's the current number one prospect? Who's the top pitching prospect? Who is the best defensive prospect? Billy Carlson was second on that poll. They found that one interesting. Number one, Connor Griffin. And that's really why I asked about Connor Griffin, is because this kid possibly is the best hitting prospect and the best defensive prospect. How fun for the Sox to miss out on. But there was one very interesting part. Which pitching prospect is the best future closer? The one that got the most results, Liam Doyle, left-handed pitcher from the Cardinals, 29.3%. Liam was from Tennessee and throws just gas from the left-handed side. I think he was picked 10th overall or something like that. Second, Jarlene Susana, right-handed pitcher from the Nationals, 19.5%. And I shouldn't probably get too upset. It's probably like 3 votes, if we're being honest. But Noah Schultz, left-handed pitcher, White Sox, 7.3%. I hate you. Anonymous executives out there that voted for, the 3 of you that voted for Noah Schultz as the best future closer, I hate you. There's somebody in my mentions that mentioned that they're already trying to drive down the price for Noah Schultz. That's big brain thinking, right? If the White Sox are going to hit on a prospect, well, hey, we don't know if he's going to be a starter. Yeah, no. Noah Schultz is absolutely a starter. I don't know if I've said this on a podcast, so I should put this down. Noah Schultz is 22 years old. I would not hate if the Chicago White Sox signed him to a contract today until he was 40 years old. Okay? I don't know what that would look like, and he wouldn't accept it. Maybe there's player options out the wazoo, but that is a player that I want to see build and grow on the South Side. That is a player that I want them to figure out. And I am not put off by his AAA numbers. And when you look at Baseball America and Major League Baseball and Baseball Prospectus, they all are walking back a little bit on Noah Schultz. Major League Baseball, their pipeline, pre-2024, they listed Noah Schultz as the 50th prospect in baseball. Pre-2025, 16th. Now he's 40th? That's an overreaction. He is not better than Jamie Arnold from Florida State. Jamie Arnold was supposed to be like the number one prospect and then completely fell. Noah Schultz is extremely unique at 6'10". I understand that he still looks like a stick out there, but like I just brought up, I don't think that these guys are going to mature into their bodies until, 25, 26. The kid's only 22. He won't be 23 until August 5th, more than halfway past, past the All-Star break, he'll still be 22. And I understand that the numbers in Charlotte's was not good. If you have somebody look at the 9.37 ERA, they're going to be like, oh, he's terrible. Well, it's 5 games, right? It was 16 and a third innings pitched. The hits were plenty. Gave up 3 home runs, which, not great, whatever. But he was still able to strike out guys. And the main thing that we saw from Brian Bannister, they wanted him to stop throwing a cutter, which is his best pitch. And although he didn't have his best pitch, he was still striking 10 out per 9. And that's really all I care about, is as long as he's a demon to deal with in the box, I want to know that he can throw 5 pitches. And Kevin Lindgren, in my mentions, also brought up the whole point of 2025 AAA Schultz was to expand his usage, work on his curveball, sinker, changeup. The slider's already there. The cutter's already there. You're not building this guy up to have 5 pitches for him to be a reliever. So even if you don't think he's going to work out and pan out, Noah Schultz is absolutely going to be tried out as a starter until the wheels completely fall off. Because being that tall, being that big, being able to just glide that somewhat effortlessly, it's something that I don't think people are going to look away from. And that's the thing too. I still think that there's some unlockability with Noah Schultz. I don't think that he's fully extending the way that he should be. I still think that with his stride and with his length, I still think that he could probably push I think 7 feet extension. I'm checking my numbers right now, but I don't think he was near 7 feet extension, which should be able to just step and throw. Yeah, he's around 6.4, which is underwhelming. And I do wonder, with a player of that size, a lot of what their growth is figuring out command and figuring out mechanics. And that is absolutely a growth that I want to see. You just see the Miami Marlins trade away Edward Cabrera at 27. I know that is the White Sox MO, and Brian Bannister has that quote that will haunt me, that the idea is we want to get in a place where, we can have quick success with these guys and then turn that more into prospects, other things, right? Like they're trying to operate like the Milwaukee Brewers. The Milwaukee Brewers just won 97 games. They have Freddie Peralta on an $8 million contract. There's no reason they should trade him, but he's in trade rumors because you're trying to maximize their value. With Schultz, I don't really care about that. I'll watch him until he's 35. I'll still believe in Noah Schultz until he's 35. Chicago Hitman brings up you can't teach 6'10". I think there's been 9 players in MLB history that have been taller than 6'10". Not a lot of them work out. I think 3 of them have thrown like 100 innings pitched, and one of them's Randy Johnson. It's like you can have a mystery box or a mystery box. I'll take the Noah Schultz mystery box that I know rather than what's behind door number 2. So I just think that this is a player that I'm not worried about. I don't think the White Sox are worried about. I think the White Sox are mainly fine-tuning him because when they want to show him off to Major League Baseball, I think they want him to hit the ground running and not have him be figuring pitch mix stuff out at the Major League level and mechanics out at the Major League level where he can have the ability to fail and have a 9.37 ERA in AAA, because at the end of the day, it's AAA. It doesn't matter. It's a very similar fall to Colson Montgomery, who fell completely off the top 100 and then came up in 71 games and hit 23 home runs. So if you believe in the player, I think that really matters. And I absolutely believe in Noah Schultz. If you have concerns about Hagen Smith, sure. But Noah Schultz is just a player that I need to see at Major League Baseball and at the Major League level. And I do think that the White Sox are just taking their time with Noah, and I am not concerned about that. And Fat Hipster says, but a box could be anything. It could be Noah Schultz. It could be a boat. I don't want a boat. I do want Kyle Tucker. I think that's probably a pretty absolute insane segue from me. But this is from Red Sox Stats on Twitter. Kyle Tucker, June 2024, fractured his shin from a foul ball. And you look at his 3 months before that. April, a weighted runs created plus of 175. May, a weighted runs created plus of 168. June, a weighted runs created plus of 290. And then June 2 in 2025, he fractures his hand from a slide. Before that, April, 156 weighted runs created plus. May, 144 weighted runs created plus. June, 172 weighted runs created plus. And you look at his 2023 as well. His May was an 82 weighted runs created plus. Not good. But you look at his 2023, the month of April, 138. June, 146. July, 200. August, 141. And September, 125. I know we don't have an owner that's going to sign Kyle Tucker. I understand that's not a thing. And it seems like he'll likely go to the Dodgers, which would be sickening. You hope that the Blue Jays would be able to just bolster their lineup, and maybe you just have to, like, Death Stars go at it. Who wouldn't pay money for that? I just wish the White Sox were in an opportunity where they could go sign him, because you once, a long, long time ago, were able to talk Jerry Reinsdorf into Manny Machado. And maybe that's the comparison I'm looking for. Maybe it's not Ted Williams, because I think I use that too much with Juan Soto. But it's like if Manny Machado played right field. And I understand there's injury concerns, but we know injury concerns. That's Luis Robert Jr. Luis Robert Jr. can't stay healthy, and then when he gets out of rhythm, then he looks completely lost. And I understand Tucker didn't look great at the end of September, but kind of shows you when he has a full off season to get healthy. The first 3 months are going to be some of the most electric offense in baseball. And I do believe that those are minor injuries that can be avoided. And it's very likely that Kyle Tucker will play 2 to 3 seasons in his career with 162 games played. So I'd love Tucker. And I was wrong. Colson Montgomery hit 21 homers in 71 games. My bad. Not 23 in 71 games, 21. So might be. All right, we're going to take a break on the CHGO White Sox podcast, but it's not a break. It's a siesta. No show tomorrow. No show on Friday. We will be back next week on Monday. We will talk all things White Sox. Maybe there's an emergency podcast. I doubt it, but hey, if there is, we're here for you, because it's White Sox over everything. It's sports over everything here at All City. We do have a diehard sale. So if you are looking to become a diehard, check out the QR code that I think we have. You can also just go to allchgo.com/join, and you can join our playoff sale for $36. You do get a t-shirt of your choice when you do sign up, and you do also get access to our diehard Discord. It's a great offer. You also get exclusive articles up at allchgo.com. Sarah's showing that right there. The diehard offer. You can go to allchgo.com/join with the Bears playoff being here Saturday. We have coverage and a tailgate as well. Tickets are on allchgo.com. You can go check out the event page right there. Tailgate is on Saturday. If you want tickets, head over to allchgo.com. But we have pre and post game that you can watch. Hopefully we are celebrating at the end of the day. But if we are commiserating, we're commiserating with each other here on All CHGO. Appreciate you, and mostly appreciative of Sarah, our producer, and Joe Doyle from the Over-Slot Baseball Podcast. Check out overslotbaseball.com. Check out the Over-Slot Podcast. Joe does a fantastic job. I think he showed himself off really fantastically in the 20 minutes we had him on. So very appreciative of Joe and the great knowledge that he brought. We will see you next week. Goodbye.
We all silly like the mayor.